I feel like I want to quote that Romeo and Juliet quote of like, what's in a name? But I don't actually know the quote. G'day folks, Wren here, and today I want to ask the question of what does it mean to give a book 5 stars? You could kind of call this like a 5-star audit, which I've seen going around. I don't know, I was looking at my favorites shelf, which is kind of this shelf. Let me show you. It's all the way up there. And all the way down there. The favorites-ish shelf. And it's like, why do I put some books on here and some books on my other red shelf? And like, there are plenty of 5 stars that are on my other red shelf. And then it was like, well, what does a 5-star read mean for me? And then I was like, I don't know. So let's go through some of them, shall we? So let's start with my favorite book of all time, which is Wolf Song by TJ Klune. This is the first in the Green Creek series. I adore this book and this series. It is my entire life. I love everything about this. And also just look at the sprayed edges, so cute. So I love this. Why do I love this? There are werewolves and the best found family I have ever read. It's all queer and full of acceptance and really hard-hitting issues at sometimes, but the found family is definitely top tier. Also, TJ Klune's writing in this, phenomenal. What is something similar that I gave a 5-star? I mean, I could just look at other TJ Klune books, which are, you know, Under the Whispering Door, House in the Cerulean Sea, also sprayed edges. But they both have that found family feel because TJ Klune is the best at doing found families. Soul Eater, this is the perfect edition by Atsushi Okubo. This is my favorite manga series, and this definitely has found family vibes. We have a bunch of kids at school that are training to be death scythes and meisters of these weapons. And it's just this little group. They go on lots of missions. Everything is Halloween themed and it's amazing. They do have this kind of found family vibe, and the meisters and weapons have the strongest bond with each other. It's like a soul bond. Platonic soul bond. It's amazing. So there's that kind of bond thing in here. And this also has that spooky feel that I really love. I love all things creepy. Okay, so let's find something that's kind of creepy. Okay, creepy vibes. Okay, all of these were creepy. So we have Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. This is a comic anthology horror. It was really good, and I kind of had this hyperfixation on Emily Carroll artwork and little stories for a little bit because it was, ooh. There is this one that I read that's like 6 pages or something, and it's like Prince by the Sea or something like that, and oh my god, that I did not know what was happening with that, and then the ending came and I was like, damn, and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since. And so just the art style of this is creepy, the stories are creepy, it's got the good creepy vibe, and just oof, it was good. Then I have The Luminous Dead by Caitlin Starling. This is one of my favorite books of 2022. This was awesome. It is about a cave diver who has taken on this very, very dangerous mission to go into this particular cave. When she's down there, she realizes that the person that is like running the show and telling her where to go and making sure she's okay, like that she can hear through her earpiece, that person is the only person that knows she's down there, and that person is lying to her. It has the most unsettling vibe I have ever felt. Like, I could not put this down. I had to keep reading because you felt the uncertainty that our main character was feeling. You felt the kind of hopelessness she sometimes had. You felt the claustrophobia that she also had because the like suit that she has to wear in the caves is like she had to have multiple surgeries to wear the suit so that she could then go into the cave. So the suit, like, it can't be taken off because the outside air is toxic or something. You know, she gets fed oxygen through the system. Her like digestive tract has been completely rewired so that, you know, she's fed through tubes and waste gets taken out, and all while wearing this suit. It's all very kind of creepy, and she has these moments of, I just want to feel my own skin, because she can't. And like, that's a creepy feeling. And just the whole isolation, because she's all alone in this cave and the only connection she has to the outside world is through a tiny voice in her ear. It's someone that is lying to her. And then we have House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. I only recently read this and I love it so much. This definitely has those creepy vibes that I was going on about. It has this like haunting kind of writing style, and it like sucks you in, but like really slowly into the story. It creeps you out, but in this weirdly beautiful way. Like the way it talks about like decay and rot is somehow beautiful. And so this is about three sisters that went missing when they were younger, and when they came back they were kind of different. And it's several years later and one of the sisters has gone missing, so the other two go and try and find her. There's this whole like portal world thing happening and a lot of mystery about what happened to them and who they really are. And there's always these flower things that are like left in their wake, and it's creepy and unsettling. It like sucks you in and it's so good. And we also have a bisexual main character and a lesbian side main character. Okay, so if I'm going from this, I really love the hauntingly beautiful writing. Let's go with that. If it also has queer vibes, that would be great. Okay, so hauntingly beautiful writing. Ghostwood Song by Erica Waters. This definitely fits the vibe. It also has a bisexual main character, which was awesome. But this is about this girl that plays her father's fiddle, and that fiddle has some kind of dark magical power, something about like communicating with the dead, but there is something after our main character because of the fiddle, and people are getting hurt and dying around her, and there's this huge mystery of like what happened to her dad. Yeah, so she's trying to get her brother out of jail by using the fiddle. The way it talks about like bluegrass music made me want to start listening to bluegrass music. Like that is not my vibe, if that wasn't obvious. But through reading this, I was like, ooh, that sounds great. And just the way it slowly draws you into this story of like you're being haunted, but the music is also haunting and you don't really know what's happening, but everything is like shrouded in this like mist or this haze, and like you're slowly like wading through it. It's so good. And another hauntingly beautiful writing, Silver in the Wood by Emily Tesh. This is phenomenal. Some of the best writing I have ever read. Again, it has that haunting kind of vibe to it. It's also queer. It has two gay main characters, and this is about the green man in the woods and this person that buys an estate where these particular woods are like attached to. There's some kind of like hidden mystery about what's happening in the woods, a mystery of how this green man came to be the green man of this woods. And just the way it writes about the woods is beautiful and entrancing, and it really captivates you, and it is that slow haunting effect. It packs a punch for only being 105 pages. It really takes you on this journey. It also had a really interesting message about being queer in certain time periods. So how can I go on from this that would explain other queer story that's not contemporary? Because there's a lot of those. I've got some and they are all hardbacks, which is interesting. So we have Gear Breakers by Zoe Hanamituka. This is a sci-fi about mechas, which is awesome. And so we have one of our female main characters she was like kind of a pilot to the mechas. And our other female main character is called the Gearbreaker, and she's kind of, I don't know if she's the leader of this group. I can't remember if she was the leader of the group or she's just very influential, but she is part of this group of other Gearbreakers, and they are, you know, they are the rebellion. They're trying to take down these mechas, like start a revolution basically, because the mechas are just taking control of society. And so, you know, we get these two girls on like opposite sides of this war, but they come together to fight the good fight. It's just so badass and I love it. And this kind of mildly antagonistic relationship between these two, because it's like, you know, you're not sure really how to treat each other, so there's a bit of like kind of enemies to lovers in a way, but it was really well done. But we have They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I adore this story. It was phenomenal. This has two queer boys, and it is about a society where you can predict death. So there is a company that will send out a text message to people that are going to die in the next 24 hours. You get that message and you're like, right, okay, I have 24 hours to say my goodbyes, do anything that I needed to do. And these two boys get a message on the same day. There is this kind of like, not a dating app, but you know, an app where you can meet people who are also going to die on that day, and you can just, you know, talk to someone who understands. So these two boys meet up, and then together they kind of do the things that they needed to do on their last day. And throughout that day, they end up falling for each other. In the end, they do what the title says. So it's not a particularly happy story. There were definitely tears, but the writing was so good. Oh, it just hits you so hard, but in a really nice way. I know a lot of people are scared to read this and they don't want to read about a sad story, and I felt similarly. But then I read it and I'm like, this is phenomenal. Like, please give this a chance. It's so good. So another thing that is very strong on the Latinx culture and the queers that aren't contemporary is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. Everyone loves this for good reason. It's fantastic. So we have our main character who is trans, and he wants to become a brujo, but his family won't let him because they're like, oh no, you were a different gender before, so you have to stick with that, which is crap. So he ends up doing the kind of ritual himself because he's like, if you're not gonna let me become one, I'll just do that myself. So he does, and he ends up raising a spirit, and it wasn't really the spirit that he wanted to raise, but happened anyways. And then it's just him trying to figure out who this particular like serial murderer is that's happening around, and him and the spirit spend a lot of time together during this time because they have to, and they end up falling for each other. It is so beautiful, this little like love story, and the culture, it's so amazing. You get so immersed in this Latinx culture. What about stories that feel real or are realistic? Okay, got a bit of a stack. And I've now just realized all of these kind of also talk about mental health issues, so that's another thing. So we have We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. This is a book about a girl dealing with grief, and the only way she knows how to deal with this grief is to run away from everyone she's ever known and cut them off, live in a world of solitude. So it's really sad to read this book, but it's so good. It also has a queer main character, which was, you know, an added bonus for me. It is just about the impact of loneliness and how everyone deals with grief in their own way, and, you know, whatever way you deal with it is how you deal with it. And that's okay. It might not be great that you isolate everyone, but, you know, sometimes you have to do what you have to do. It is about this main character slowly opening up to her former best friend. It's just like these two girls like alone in this dorm room while it's like snowing, and there is this subtle heaviness that sets over everything. It's just, you feel that like that sadness and that loneliness, and it drags you in because it's such an immersive story, and it hits you in the feels, but like it's good. Then we have You Asked for Perfect by Laura Silverman. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I have reread it several times now, and it's just as good every single time. So this is about a Jewish bisexual main character who is in his last year of high school, and he has been, like, his whole life has just been about getting the best grades and making sure that he has the absolute best possible, like, scores and reputation and whatever to get into university. Like, that's been the only thing he's ever really thought about. You know, he's at his last year of high school, and you know, he's basically got all these things, but he needs to keep up with these things so that he can continue to be the best. Unfortunately, that kind of leads to a lot of anxiety. You really feel that anxiety because he's like, he has so much on his plate and he's trying to do all the things. There's no way that any human could do all those things at the same time. Like, it's just kind of impossible. Throughout the book, our main character kind of starts to realize that his goal has always been to get into a good university, but he doesn't know what he wants to study. That has never entered into his plan. It was just get into a good university. What next? He doesn't know. So that happens, and then he does start to realize that he doesn't need to be the best of the best, especially if it's going to impact his health, his family's health, his relationship with his family, and his relationship with his friends and with himself. The best grades do not matter in the grand scheme of things, and he slowly starts to work that out. Then we have Darius the Great is Not Okay by Adib Khorram. This is a book about depression. It is also about being mixed race, because we have our main character Darius, who is American Persian. At school in America, he constantly feels like he's too Persian to be around all these other Americans because they all make fun of him. And then when he goes to Iran, he feels too American to be around all of these other Persians. And that, he really struggles with that. And he also struggles with being plus size because the depression medication he takes makes him put on weight, and he struggles with having depression, and he struggles with the relationship with his father. They have a really, really rocky relationship, and the father also has depression. The father, he's trying to do the right thing by Darius. He's trying to, like, push Darius to do all these things because he doesn't want the way depression has controlled his life to control Darius's life. But he does it in the wrong way, and that's really hard for them to grapple with. Darius is also gay, but that is very much that's not said in this book. It is implied. In the second book it is confirmed, but it is definitely implied in this book. So he kind of struggles with that, but that's like the last thing on his list. This family, they have to go to Iran because the grandfather is sick. So they go to Iran to spend time with him, get to know him, and it is just about them being there, trying to figure out how to fit into this new kind of world that he's in. He's trying to make new friends, he's trying to connect with his culture, but he struggles with that. There's also a bit of like a stigma about depression in Iran, or at least in his family. I read this in a single day, and then when I reread it, I read it in a single day. Like, it pulls you in, it really tugs at your heartstrings, and it is phenomenal depression rep. Like, everything was accurate. I'm not sure if I can think of any categories that like relate to this. There's so many other books I could talk about. Like, this is a whole shelf full of good books that I didn't even mention. So, things we've learned. I like found family. I like creepy stories. I like beautifully haunting writing. I like queer books, which is not a surprise to anyone. I like hard-hitting contemporaries. I like mental health issues and Latinx culture stories. I just like things that are just very entertaining. And I like some wholesome things sometimes. What are some other things that I didn't talk about? I also love fake dating and werewolves. But yeah, that was about what it takes to get a 5-star from me, apparently. Any of those things, I'll read it and I'll probably have a really good time. What are some things that would make you give a book 5 stars? Like, what are your top kind of things that are like, yeah, this is for me, this is going to be great? I'd love to hear them. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!